We are back. Welcome. It is another episode of The Last Word on Rugby, the first one for 2026. Yes, we took a bit of a longer hiatus, but we are back full steam and we are ready to bring you the latest news in the world of rugby, whether it comes to the box or the four domestic franchises of South Africa. Everything is right here on The Last Word on Rugby. With me today again, and welcome back, gents. It's Mike Greenaway and John Goliath. They are going to unpack some of the happenings over the last couple of weeks, but we will also look back at what happened in the time that we were away and some things we can look forward to over the next weekend, but also for 2026. I mean, some interesting information coming out from a first 2026 session with Springbok head coach Rassie Erasmus, where he again stated his assistant, attack guru Tony Brown, is going nowhere. Although Brown does have some ambition to coach New Zealand, however, he will stay in the box setup until after the 2027 World Cup. We, of course, will unpack everything right here. Mike, he's been in on the whole Tony Brown All Black coaching debacle, and let's go over to him for his insights on it.
I just always felt that contracts, you can get out of them if you really want to. But I just thought that Tony Brown is not going to leave 6 months before the greatest rivalry tour, just from a matter
Yeah,
of honor and principle.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he spent two years with the Springboks. He has got so much information, knowledge, intelligence on how they work. It would be immoral for him to jump over the fence just before the All Blacks come here. That was never going to happen. And if you know Tony Brown, you know he would not be able to do that and have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, because basically Tony Brown has got all the South African IP. He knows us now from line out calls to this to that. So it would have been a massive coup for New Zealand. But
Yeah.
yeah, Tony Brown is he's a stand-up guy. And a guy with principles, and you have to respect that. I mean, his heart, in his heart of hearts, he probably one day wants to go back to New
Mm.
Zealand. Mike wrote a splendid column over the weekend. That I mean, the guy's a former All Black flyer himself. We forget that, and a pretty damn good one back in the day. So he would want to go back one day to New Zealand, but I think he sort of knows that it would be absolutely ridiculous if he goes now.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been credited with a lot of things around the tech and creating hybrid players out of guys and how much the box would have lost if
Mm.
you went. I think it could have had a heavy impact, not just on starting 2026 and in the Nations Championship
Mm.
against England, but also looking forward
Mm.
to later in the year when the Box play the All Blacks in those three tests here, and
Yeah.
then over in the US. I mean, we know the Box sort of under Rassie started 2 years ahead of a World Cup. They had to throw plans together to be able to win in 2019, but they would have been disrupted now after having plans for the last 6 years, if I can call it
Mm.
that, in terms of players they wanted to play over the next three World Cups,
Mm.
2019, 2023, and then 2027. So they would have been. I think the Box would
Mm.
have been in disarray if
Yeah.
something like that happened.
And if Leeton, if I can just add, the thing about Tony and the Springboks is that he's been there for 2 years, and that 2 years is about, he started from scratch, so he's done all the groundwork.
Yeah, yeah.
The investment in the basics of what he wants to do with the Springboks has been the last 2 years, and now it's time to kick on. So what I'm saying is the best of what Tony can give to the Springboks is still to come because he's just done 2 years of groundwork. So that's what's exciting from a Springbok point of view, is that he's staying. And boy, now that he's put some foundations in, hopefully the attack is going to flourish even more.
And the Springboks' attack has been markedly better over the last 2 years. I mean, if we go back to a few years ago where they struggled in the 22 to put teams away, they get field possession because of their set piece dominance, but they struggled to put teams away. But now in that first year, we saw them scoring from first phase ball, the attack. Going from strength to strength. And if you look at also some of the skills that is brought, especially to the forwards over the last 2 years, and those little subtle offloads out the back, those creating space, people looking to run into space as well. There are moments where you need to take it up the guts, and there are moments also when people like a Peter Steph de Toey or a RG Snyman looking to offload in the tackle to get those things away. All those skills, the front rowers, how they are handling the ball, all those things have come about because of Tony Brown's influence. And I think he's only scraped the tip of the iceberg now because of the next
Definitely,
18
yeah.
months heading into that World Cup.
Mm.
The Box will only improve a lot more and they will be dangerous coming at the World Cup.
Yeah, yeah. And I for one am glad that that Rassie and the Boks have offloaded the Tony Brown issue. They can now focus on what lies ahead in 2026. I mean, I quickly looked on social media and I see they've after Rassie's media conference with a couple of us here in Cape Town on Monday. Um, they had a team building session at one of the Stellenbosch wine farms. So hopefully that was the first of many sessions where they are planning for the new season. But also, Rassie said on Monday that they are looking at targeting specific games and then targeting that rugby's greatest rivalry series against New Zealand. Now, guys, I wanted to say Tony Brown was not in one of those social media photos. So hopefully he's just having an extended vacation in New Zealand. But as Rassie said, he's not leaving. He's not leaving. That there, guys, a tough 2026 ahead for the Boks. We've heard it from Rassie this past week. That there's a lot of plans going into the season and being ready for what awaits in 2027 and the World Cup. Now, England, I think we can all agree here. I can't see the Boks looking past England and that opener in the Nations Championship. Yes, there are a couple of good tests waiting for that tour, but England main priority.
It is
Yeah,
going
look,
to be massive. Apologies, Mike. It's going to be massive because they view themselves as the best team in the world. Having not
yeah,
played the Box last year, they view themselves. They must first get past the Six Nations also before they get to South Africa. But yeah, I think that's going to be a sort of a grudge match. And what a way to set the tone for probably one of the most anticipated rugby years in a long time.
yeah,
I mean, we're gonna have the Nations League games, and then we're also going to have the greatest rivalry tour. But I mean, that game against England, it's sort of being billed now as the pretenders versus
yeah.
the champs. So that's going to be a heavyweight battle of note.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Rassie has been sending on the Springbok group pictures of Henry Pollock prancing around and licking his lips and
Wow,
rubbing his hands.
but he's been so good, eh?
No, he
Uh,
is good. He's
in the
good.
Premiership, in the Champions Cup, he has
Yeah.
been so good. So, but yeah, he hasn't played the Springboks yet, and
Yeah.
that is the ultimate test.
Yeah,
That I
yeah,
mean, you can run around as much as you want, but you must come down a channel
Yeah.
featuring Oxen Chair and Peter Stiff the
Yeah.
Toy.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I want go for it,
sorry,
John.
man. I was just going to say that's the first game of the season, and the Springboks will have a warm up. But that is one. It's just in the Springbok DNA. Playing the All Blacks, you play. I mean, your life is at stake. Ireland to a degree, but I think England after the All Blacks is probably the game the Springboks most love to win.
Mm.
So that one is circled on the calendar, and as you say, it is a massively congested year. So the next two games they have, I'm sure we'll see rotation there. We've got Scotland and Wales in South Africa. And then, of course, it's the greatest rivalry. And then after that, we go to November to play the rest of the Nations Cup in the Northern Hemisphere. And that's where we're going to see. We're playing Ireland, France, and Italy. Well, I mean, it's tough to rotate against Ireland and France. But, those countries are also in the same boat. Eh? Everyone's playing the World Cup next year. So this year is a massive balancing act for all the countries involved. And the problem for the Springboks with 4 tests against the All Blacks is you're going to get injuries. And
Yeah,
I hate to curse it, but a year out from the World Cup, you don't want to start having losing like a Stephen Kitsoff and how many other guys have we lost career-ending injuries. Got to nurse some guys to get through to Australia if you're serious about taking some of those older campaigners. So Rassie will have to rotate somewhere along the line.
How,
yeah.
how do you think we'll go? Do you think the Rassie will play his best team in the first two test matches, hoping to win both and then maybe rotate from there?
Yeah, I think that's the sort of the answers that we got on Monday. They will look to strike first. In that series, I know the All Blacks are playing some of the local franchises as well, so they will want the franchises to soften up the All Blacks before we get to the first couple of tests. If I'm not mistaken, the Stormers are up first down here in Cape Town before they head up north for most of the games. So it's going to be all about how Rassie manages, like you said, John, that squad in terms of not playing uh, a host of players for 2, 3 games of the series, and then hope and pray that they can seal it the first three, but then they can obviously swap for the USA test as well. It's I think if we look at what happened in Wellington, um, and then or first in Auckland, what happened in Auckland, and going back to that, I don't want to say
Mhm.
conservative team selection, but I'm speaking now about the 2025 test in New Zealand. If the Boks are on the back foot going into the greatest rivalry series, and Rassie spoke about this. Um, there's that panic stations. Do we go back to selecting conservative and experience to grind out the game for you? Or do you feel who you think is your strongest side for maybe the first two tests? I mean, the first two, they will need to clinch to obviously say that, okay, we sorted now. Now we can plan further, looking at November and the World Cup. Who we going to rest? Who we want to see playing against the All Blacks maybe for 2 consecutive tests to
Mm.
prepare them for what will likely happen in the World Cup quarterfinal. So there's a lot going into planning that All Blacks series, and how they're gonna field the teams to give them the best possible chance to win it.
From an All Black point of view, also though, can they step up in four successive weeks against the Boks? We saw the test in Auckland that was really physical. It was a tactical grind. They profited off mistakes.
Yeah.
But in the next week, where the box made some changes, refreshed a bit, and they were basically almost the same lineup. They couldn't stick with the box. So okay, but so the question is, we all know the box. They can rotate and they've got
Mm.
the depth, but do the All Blacks have the depth
Mm.
to compete on 4 weekends in a row on the with the type of
Mm.
physicality that those tests demands? I don't
Yes.
think so.
Yeah.
And who knows where the series will be after 3 tests, and then the 2 teams after that third test in the Johannesburg Stadium. I mean, the same night they get on a plane and they fly to America. On one side of the aisle is the All Blacks, on the other side of the aisle is the Springboks. Oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that one. But they could well. I mean, I don't know who can predict where it will be the series after three
Yeah.
tests. But that fourth one in Baltimore in the USA, it could be a decider, or whatever the case, there will be a lot riding on it. Whether it's the All Blacks playing for pride, the Springboks playing for pride, or someone's playing to win the series. But yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows where the All Blacks will, how many of them will be left standing by the fourth test?
Yeah.
All we know
And
is it's going to be a magnificent test, the greatest test ever played in America. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to go all up in Baltimore. We're going to see some great test rugby.
make rugby great again. But I was just
Oh,
Who
gonna I
knows?
was
Who
just gonna
knows
touch on
what
that.
America is going to look like
Yeah.
in September?
Yeah.
Because
yes.
I'm seriously hoping it's gonna be fine and there's some sanity prevails there. But I mean, it could be a civil war by the time we get there.
Yeah. 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 Hopefully there's no uh, uh, flower bombs and all of that going off. We know the Springboks and and All Blacks and flower bombs and all of that. But guys, on a more serious note, um, Baltimore. All I can think of is the Baltimore Ravens. But which Major League Rugby team plays their rugby in Baltimore in the state of Maryland? And do you guys also there's just a lot of talk on social media at the moment. This is all about the ka-ching ching and that is it. I don't know how much the Boks and All Blacks will be able to grow rugby in Baltimore ahead of the 2031 World Cup. But do you guys feel this game could have been played somewhere else? Especially looking at that travel, getting on a chartered flight at 12 o'clock on a Saturday after a grueling test in Johannesburg.
Well, that makes absolutely no rugby sense. I mean, really, 3 tests, the hammer and tongs, Springboks and All Blacks go, then they get on a plane and fly to, I mean, it's 25
Yeah,
hours or something to get to Baltimore. So if you ask the players themselves, off the record, they'll be saying it's madness. I
yeah,
think it's World Rugby clutching at
Mm.
straws now, starting to panic. They've
It's
got this World
definitely World
Cup
Rugby.
coming in 2031. No one's interested. It doesn't look like. So they're clutching at straws. The two biggest draw cards in World Rugby, Springboks
mm,
and All Blacks at the moment. Let's put them in somewhere in the States and let's
yeah,
hope we generate some interest. But look, it doesn't. The Springboks, All Blacks, their respective unions will be quite happy to get US dollars coming into
yeah.
their bank accounts, even though the rand, by the way, is breaking records against the US dollars,
Exactly.
ironically. But yeah, no, this is just a crazy rugby fixture.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I also think World Rugby got involved with this. It's obviously because they had to switch the schedule around to accommodate this tour anyway. So I think that was could be part of the deal. I might be clutching at straws here. But they need to promote this 2031 World Cup. And at the moment, as you say, there's absolutely no interest in it at the moment. Okay, it's still a long way to go. But if you look at the football World Cup happening later this year in America,
Mm.
there's already talk about people saying the country should boycott it because of what's currently going on in the States.
Yep.
So it's an absolute PR mess at the moment, and everything is happening in the US over the next couple of years. We've got the Football World Cup, it's the Olympics in 2028, then it's the Rugby World Cup. So that has always been for sport, I think, the final frontier in terms of football and rugby, where if you can get the audience in America, you can probably sort of double or triple your income.
Mm.
That has always been the thought, but that's been the thought for since 1994. That's been the thought when the Football World Cup was first played there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think rugby will actually they get a footprint there, like a proper footprint where you can say, okay, this is how, America is part of the rugby community. Yes, they've been playing test rugby. Yes, their sevens team has been decent, but will there really be interest? We'll have to wait and see. We'll also see how many South Africans will be able to get to the stadium. It seems like they already they already got some of the refugees there. That probably be part of the package. It was part of the package. You get a ticket to watch the Springboks versus the All Blacks.
Yeah. Look, guys, yeah, we can go on for hours, more with the box. I know there's quite a lot to unpack, but we've got some more episodes over the next couple of weeks to really dive into the 2026 season for them. Obviously, we still have the four franchises in the URC and in the Champions Cup and the Challenge Cup with the Cheetahs, who also played in the Challenge Cup. Mike, yeah, we've been divvying up the teams over the last couple of weeks and the last month. But still, again, disappointing that there will be no home playoff for one of the SA franchises in the Champions Cup, and then the Sharks dropping back into
Mm,
the Challenge Cup playoffs. The Lions and Cheetahs completely knocked out.
yeah.
And then yeah, it's and it doesn't look too good on the URC front for well, I would say half of the four
Mm.
franchises at the moment.
Yeah, look, this whole problem of our performance in the Champions Cup is actually getting quite embarrassing now. Um,
I agree with you. Yeah.
I saw some articles in the UK press about exactly that, and there was one article which sort of kind of summed it up. The headline said, SA teams must go big or go home, which is, and then it was all about, first of all, this was always a European competition. Um, and then just the fact that South Africa got brought into it, it kind of went against the grain for many followers of the Champions Cup. Then the South Africans come in via through the back door, side door, whatever you want to call it, and then and then they send B and C teams across, which yeah, it is our problem that we've got this. We play 52 weeks of the year. This is symptomatic of a very problematic rugby schedule we've got, that we just can't field full strength teams every single week. Um, But this is the reality we've got. So we've got to find a way that we grow our squads. Maybe the salary cap has got to be made bigger. But the South African squads, as they are, there's too much of a difference between the best team and then the second stringers. Um, so I would say we've got to look at it. If we're going to stay in the Champions Cup, we've got to then become more competitive. We've got to somehow get a greater uniformity of strength across the entire squads so that coaches aren't in the position where they have to pick and choose their fixtures. Like we've got a big home game coming up next week. Let's keep guys behind so we can be competitive. And that, because as it stands at the moment, it leaves a sour taste in the mouth that the South Africans are not sending their best sides for some of the fixtures.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Mike. It feels like we are disrespecting the competition. And I think it's a wonderful competition, but
Mm.
they have to relook how they work things. Is it maybe about scheduling fixtures um, before and after Champions Cup matches in Europe, so that you may be playing, say for instance, the Stormers are
Mm.
playing Leinster one week and then play the Champions Cup match the next week over there.
So you go on
And
a tour. You have like a
Yeah.
tour
yeah,
fix.
you have a sort of tour because we know at the moment, because none of these South African teams, and if I look at Leighton's shirt he's wearing, United, those guys, when they play Champions League, they've got their own planes. So they they can get on a plane in and out playing Champions League. It's in the same hemisphere, but they've got their
Mm.
own planes. South African guys, we need to fly via Qatar or fly somewhere and then get the connection and hauling a lot of beef like that because all the players they need to be sitting in business class. They need their own big seats. So it's a logistical nightmare at the moment. And that's why teams are just deciding, look here, we'll keep our best players here for the return match and hopefully we can get a bonus point there or something and then come back and do the business. So that's the thought process at the moment. And that's why we have seen the results gone the way they have.
Yeah, and then finally, guys, a crucial weekend of SA derbies in the URC coming up. Obviously, that return coastal derby between the Stormers and Sharks. The Stormers fell out of the bus this past Saturday in Cape Town, where they lost for the very first time against the Durban side. And of course, they will be up for the game. They will be ready to take revenge. But looking at that Shark side, Mike, they
Mm.
seem to be clicking the right time to turn their campaign around under JP Peterson.
Yeah, it was a great day to be a Durbanite, I have to confess. You know what stood out for me in that game is that I think JP Peterson actually outcoached John Dobson there. The way that they attacked the set pieces and shut down the halfbacks, and I thought that was quite a clever
Yeah.
performance.
Mm,
Yeah, and also just something I want to say about that game. I think Andre Esterhuizen, the way he has kind of taken that Sharks team as the new captain and
Yeah.
is just leading from the front. I know Fassi was the player of the match and he played very well, but I thought Esterhuizen was by far the best player on the
Yeah.
pitch.
Head and shoulders.
And it was
Yep.
inspired by JP to make him to make Andre the captain because he's always been a kind of a reluctant. He said in the press conference yesterday to kind of
mm.
be in the front. He's quite a quiet guy, but wow, I mean he doesn't have to talk because he doesn't like to talk. He just leads from the front. I mean, so yeah, I just think he's been a revelation.
He's
John, before you
tackled.
before you go, I just want
Mm,
to ask you this question. Um, I need to ask this because there's a huge debate around it. Are the Stormers pushing the Feinberg Mngomezulu captaincy envelope too early? I mean, he just took over from Mane as the starting
Mhm.
10. Yes, he's got a brilliant combination with Kobus Reinach, but does it
Mm.
seem like the captaincy is adding an extra bit of pressure on his shoulders?
Yeah, Leighton, you're putting me on the spot here. I wasn't expecting that question, to be honest. Look, you can look at it both ways. He's also a guy who likes to. We all know that he loves a bit of banter, and he's a straight talking guy. He's completely opposite from Andre Esterhuizen in terms of that. But on the field, he's also a guy who wants to do more, wants to lead by example. He like we saw in Durban last year when they played
Yeah,
Argentina. He's the guy to take the game by the scruff of the neck. That that quick restart after Argentina scored, taking the lead in Durban, that sort of thing. So he is that guy. But sometimes I think he tries to do too much on his own. And we saw that on Saturday a few times where he just wanted to when there was nothing on, so he tried to create something instead of maybe setting up another ruck, giving it to a forward to carry it up. He wants to do that, and sometimes I'm actually worried about his physical health because he plays the game at 100 miles an hour, and
yeah,
he's not
yeah,
scared to take
yeah,
on the big
exactly.
boys.
Yeah,
And sometimes as a flyer, if you just take it a bit
dit
easy
'n klein
at a
bietjie, ja.
point. So I think that's also, but that is his mentality also, which
Mm,
we all love.
ja, ja.
And I think I wrote a column this week saying that maybe sometimes it's just cool maybe to take a back seat
Mm,
and let other people bring them into the game also a bit. We know he's an unbelievable talent, a prodigious talent. And he's still 20, he's only 23 years old, so he's still learning on the job as he goes. So I
mhm.
think it was brave making him the captaincy. Maybe they think it will help his journey in terms of maturing into that to that space. But at the moment, it just seems like the last couple of games that he's got the world on his shoulders. Is that especially with the injury problems they have, that he feels he must, it's on him to get them out of this little slump which they find themselves in at the moment. But coming back to Andre Esterhuizen and Mike's point about his game, I think the turning point for me in that match was him catching Leolan
Yes,
Zas.
Yeah.
yes.
If he scored there, I think it gives
Mm,
the Stormers another leg up.
mm.
But that was incredible. I'm like, Zas a forward. My guy. But that, I mean, it just shows the value and the commitment of the man, a great player. And the
Yeah.
Sharks for me were tactically fantastic.
Mm,
I asked Bongi Manambi at the press conference leading up to the game. I asked him specifically about the Stormers' line-out maul and how
mm,
they counter that. And he was very coy, but they recognized that it's a big threat. And the Stormers had about 4 or 5 lineouts in the Sharks' 22, which they ended up butchering.
Yeah.
And they could have easily scored from off those 5 lineouts maybe 2 or 3 times. They could have scored tries because the Maul is such a dangerous weapon for them. And the Sharks read their lineout like a Chief Mills and Boone novel, got up and they disrupted it. So yeah, it was. I mean, fair play to JP. We look at if I can bring another English Premiership sort of comparison
mm.
here. It looks like the Sharks have got that new manager bounce.
Yeah,
They've got that new coach bounce at the moment. There's good
yeah,
feelings, and I mean this is another massive game for them. If you look at the URC log,
Yeah.
both they
mm,
are, I mean, the Lions are currently seventh. And the Sharks and the Bulls are outside the top
Top
eight.
eight.
So they need to win
mm,
this weekend to try and
mm.
get into that top eight and stay there.
Yeah. Guys, just on the Bulls and the Lions, obviously the return Jukskei Derby. They don't have oceans right there in Gauteng, but so there's no coastal for them. But the Yukskei River is there, so the Yukskei Derby return one at Ellis Park after the Lions trumped the Bulls in Pretoria. But we mentioned the Bulls after those two wins overseas. They are also in that. I don't really want to call it a new manager thing like Man United, Michael Carrick and JP Peterson and the Sharks, but it seems like Akkers and his team, they are finally finding each other, Mike.
Well, I'm fascinated to see what kind of game they play at Ellis Park, because we know they got into trouble, especially on the half-veld, playing that barbarian style game where games were like 61-49 and 55-28, and then they went to France to Power. Was it Power Purple? No, Power. Then they obviously played in Scotland, and the conditions there forced them to play a very tight game. It was awful weather, etc. Everyone knows in the Northern Hemisphere you can't play that seven styles rugby, and that suited the Bulls' strengths. I mean, they've got those magnificent forwards and Andre, and I'm not saying they must go back into the voortrekker age and play conservative rugby, but it just they won two games when they played a much tighter kind of game. Now they're coming back to Ellis Park. It's going to be bone dry. It's going to be the half veld. It's going to be sunshine at 2:30. Are they now going to go back to how they try to play at Loftus? Let's see. Maybe they learned a lesson over there. But just on this game, wow, I think this one is building up. It's going to be a hell of a game, because the Lions, I mean, they coming good, eh? I mean, I thought they had an excellent tour over there. Their forwards are coming to the party. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people are thinking, okay, revenge for the Bulls. I'm not so sure. I think it's going to be a few points in it. It's going to be a heck of a game then.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one person who's going to be watching the game behind his couch is Rassie Erasmus. Because these games are incredibly physical. I mean, I was in the stands as a fan for the Stormers versus Bulls, and I could feel the heat. I had my wife next to me, and she was sitting there, and she's a medical doctor. She was like, "How are these guys surviving this?" It's so I'm looking forward to this. It's a fantastic double header of South African rugby. I think I don't think anybody's gonna hold anything back, because if I'm correct, that's the last match before
Yes.
this sort of the Six Nations break. So it's going to be brutal, brutal, brutal. But Mike called it a few weeks ago when the Bulls were struggling, where he said, do they actually, for the game they were playing back then, a more expensive game, do they have the tools to play that sort of game? Now they've gone back to actually adapting their game to the personnel they have, and they're playing that sort of game. So it's going to be interesting, sort of contrast of styles also, because the Lions have already said we're looking forward to the dry weather, they're going to move the ball. I don't know if that's a double bluff,
Yeah.
uh, but it's going to be. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this weekend.
Just quickly, guys, and before we head off, Mike, your predictions for the next two derbies.
Sharks to back it up. Yes, Stormers will be will be once bitten, twice shy. I just think the Sharks have got some nice momentum there. Wow, Durban is hot at the moment, guys. Cheapers. I've just got a hunch that the Sharks are going to do the double on the Stormers. I do think so. Bulls versus Lions, Cheapers, guys. I've said it's going to be extremely tight. I'm just thinking that the Bulls have got quite a lot of fresh legs coming in. They left some guys back, or who are just recovering from niggles. A few Springboks coming back. If you had to put a gun to my head, I'd say Bulls by 3 or 4 points. Sharks to just get over the line in Durban?
I think Evan Roos coming back for the Stormers is massive this weekend. And I think that's what they were maybe lacking in terms of their back row. Their back row had a lot of they had a lot of grafters in their back row this past weekend. Paul de Villiers, we all know what he's been up to the season, Ben Jason Dixon. But if you add Evan Roos's dynamic play, and that is what the Stormers' game is built on. It's a bit of dynamic, uh, your number eight being dynamic. And then I don't think Kobus Reinach, he was, for me, that was not probably his worst game in the last couple of
Yeah.
years. His box kicking was absolutely atrocious. And, letting, it was a bit too deep. So I'm thinking it's going to be a lot closer. But yeah, Mike, I fancy the Sharks, especially with the form the Hendrikse brothers is also ran into.
Mm.
While Kobus Reinach was terrible, Jaden was very good.
Mm.
So I'm gonna say Sharks by 3. I'm gonna say Sharks by 3, and then I'm going for a tie at Ellis Park. I'm going for a lekker 24 or draw at Ellis Park.
Okay, so it seems I'm the only one that's backing the Stormers here to actually come good. I
Yeah,
think
you've
they
got the
will.
DHL Stadium behind you, so we're not surprised.
They will come good with their forwards and pull that game through. Their backs will I think the backs will find each other and they will be running the Sharks off their feet there. So expect the Stormers to win by 7 to 10 points with a bonus
Oh,
point.
that's a big call, eh?
And then up in Josie, yeah, we all know the Lions are flying high, but you gotta back the Bulls with how they're doing. I mean the Akkers has got a headache this week fitting in Kirtley Arends, Kainan Moody, Cheswell Joost, Sebastian de Klerk. Who goes at 13 between Kainan and Sebastian, and then who goes on the wing between Kirtley, Cheswell if he's ready, and then Kainan who's coming back. So if there's no injuries there, no, I think it was some of the guys took knocks there, but if they clear to play, Akkers will have a lekker selection headache in his back line. So yeah.
Leighton, before you say goodbye, just a quick one. Folks, watch out for the Sharks left wing, Yaku Williams, to score the match-winning try at Kings Park. That guy is going to be the next Cheslin, Kirtley. Watch that guy at Kings Park, Yaku Williams.
Okay, Obas Markotter. Identifying talent, yeah.
There we go. It's been another lovely episode, the first of 2026. Guys, I look forward to chatting more rugby over the next couple of weeks as we head into the Six Nations break, but there will be plenty of rugby to catch up on. We will review the SA derbies next weekend and then climb into, should I say next week, and then climb into next weekend's uh, uh, games in the Six Nations when they kick off. Mike, John, thanks for joining again. And if you haven't yet, guys, click that like button, subscribe to our channel at the Clutch ZA as we look to bring you more inside news on the last word on rugby. Cheers.